The stench of unwashed bodies and desperation filled Station Gamma 7's lower levels as Marcus Reid pushed through the crowd of slavers, smugglers, and worse. His diplomatic credentials meant nothing in this forgotten corner of space where the Galactic Council's reach barely extended. The auction house's flickering neon signs cast sickly colors across his weathered face as he checked his chronometer for the third time in 5 minutes. "Damn bureaucrats," he muttered, adjusting his coat to better conceal the plasma pistol beneath. 3 months of negotiations with the Zephyrian Trade Consortium had led to this moment, their final, desperate attempt to secure peace between humanity and the aquatic species that controlled half the galaxy's shipping lanes. The peace treaty required a symbolic exchange of cultural representatives, and somehow that had devolved into this nightmare. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you. Make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. His earpiece crackled with static before Admiral Chen's voice cut through. "Reid, status report. The Zephyrian delegation is getting impatient." "Almost there, Admiral," Marcus replied, scanning the crowd for his contact. "Though I still think sending their cultural representative through a slave auction is the most backwards diplomatic protocol I've ever encountered." The Zephyrians insisted on traditional selection methods. Their representative chose this herself, apparently to prove her commitment to understanding human flexibility in difficult circumstances. Marcus snorted. Flexibility. That was one way to describe humanity's willingness to wade through the galaxy's cesspools to get things done. Other species called it madness, but it was madness that had kept humanity alive and thriving among civilizations that saw them as upstart primitives. The auction house's main floor opened before him, circular arena surrounded by tiered seating, where beings from dozens of species called out bids in various languages. At the center, a raised platform displayed the evening's merchandise under harsh spotlights. Marcus felt his jaw clench as he spotted several humans among the captives, but his mission took priority. It had to find the Zephyrian representative and get her out of here before Lot 47. The auctioneer's voice boomed through universal translators. Zalarian female, age approximately 25 standard years. Note the damaged neural implants and scarring. Previous owner reports complete memory loss following ... industrial accident. Marcus's blood chilled as he saw her. The woman on the platform was undeniably beautiful, despite her circumstances, with the distinctive blue-tinted skin and silver hair of the Zalarian nobility, but it was the crude metal collar around her neck and the network of surgical scars across her temples that made his hands curl into fists. Zalarians were among the galaxy's most advanced species, their neural implant technology allowing them to interface directly with quantum computers. To see one reduced to this? Bidding starts at 500 credits, the auctioneer continued. Fair warning, subject shows signs of psychological trauma and may be unsuitable for standard concubine duties. Medical scans indicate full physical capability, but neural damage has left her ... unstable. The crowd's interest visibly waned. Marcus watched potential buyers shake their heads and turn away as the woman stood motionless on the platform, her violet eyes staring at nothing. Whatever had been done to her, it had left her a shell of what Zalarians should be: brilliant, proud, technologically sophisticated. Beings who served as the galaxy's premier engineers and scientists. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. 500? Anyone? 250? Marcus felt his earpiece buzz with an incoming message, but ignored it. Something about the woman's posture, the way she held herself despite her circumstances, nagged at him. Zalarians in the outer systems were rare enough, but one this young with noble features ending up in a slave auction, it didn't add up. 100 credits. Do I hear 100 for this exotic specimen? The crowd's disinterest was palpable. A damaged Zalarian concubine was apparently worse than useless. Too proud to be properly broken, too mentally unstable to be trusted. And without their technological abilities, hardly worth the cost of feeding. Going once, ... Going twice, ... 5,000 credits? Marcus's own voice surprised him. The number had left his lips before his rational mind could stop it, drawing startled looks from across the auction house. The auctioneer's eyebrows rose as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Did I hear 5,000? Yes, we have 5,000 from the human gentleman in Sector 12. Any other bids? The crowd remained silent, most looking at Marcus like he'd lost his mind. 5,000 credits for a brain-damaged Zephyrian was either the desperate act of someone with very specific tastes or complete insanity. Sold to the human for 5,000 credits. Please proceed to Settlement Booth 3 for processing. As the crowd dispersed to the next lot, Marcus made his way toward the settlement area, his mind racing. His diplomatic funds would cover the purchase, but explaining this to Admiral Chen would be ... complicated. Still, something about the situation felt wrong. Zephyrians were too valuable to their own society to end up abandoned in places like this. Unless you're either the luckiest or stupidest human I've met, came a gravelly voice behind him. Marcus turned to see a Corvin trader, his reptilian features twisted in what might have been amusement. That one's been through 6 auctions in 2 months. Nobody wants a broken Zephyrian princess. Marcus tried to keep his voice casual. Figure of speech, though word is she had some fancy titles before whoever worked her over. Not that it matters now, neural damage like that. She's probably forgotten her own name. The Corvin leaned closer, his breath reeking of fermented algae. Of course, if you're into the unresponsive type, might be perfect for you. Marcus resisted the urge to demonstrate exactly how humans dealt with slavers who talked too much. Instead, he nodded and continued toward the settlement booth, his mind working through possibilities. A Zephyrian with noble features. Neural implants sophisticated enough to require industrial accident as a cover story, and important enough that someone had tried to erase her memory, rather than simply kill her. The settlement process was mercifully. Quick credits transferred, ownership papers processed, and a remote control for the neural collar handed over with casual indifference. Marcus pocketed the device without using it, then made his way to the holding area where his purchase waited. She sat on a narrow bench in a cell barely large enough for a human, let alone someone of Zephyrian height. Close the damage was. Even more apparent, the surgical scars were precise professional work, not the crude butchery he might have expected from common slavers. Someone with serious medical knowledge had taken great care to damage specific neural pathways while leaving her basic functions intact. Can you understand me? He asked softly, crouching to bring himself to her eye level. Her violet eyes focused on him for the first time, and Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Despite the claimed memory loss, despite the trauma, there was intelligence there. Damaged, perhaps hidden beneath layers of psychological protection, but definitely present. Yes, she whispered, her voice carrying the musical quality typical of her species. You purchased me. I did. My name is Marcus Reid. What's yours? She was quiet for so long he thought she might not answer. Then, barely audible, I don't remember. They call me 27. The number of the lot, Marcus felt his jaw clench again. Whatever had been done to her, whoever was responsible, they tried to erase not just her memories, but her very identity. The fact that she could still speak coherently suggested the damage might not be as complete as advertised. Well, 27, we're leaving this place. Can you walk? She nodded, rising with the fluid grace that marked Zephyrian nobility despite her circumstances. As they made their way through the station's corridors, Marcus noticed how she unconsciously catalogued their surroundings, counting guards, noting security cameras, mapping escape routes. Damaged or not, her tactical awareness was impressive. His ship, the Meridian, waited at docking bay 15. The modest diplomatic courier vessel wasn't much to look at, but it was fast, well-armed, and most importantly equipped with the kind of medical facilities that might help him understand what had been done to his unexpected passenger. This is your ship? She asked as they boarded, her eyes taking in the clean lines and human technology with obvious interest. Weeks, it's our ship, Marcus corrected, leading her to the passenger quarters. These will be your chambers. The door locks from the inside, and there's a communications panel if you need anything. She turned to stare at him, confusion evident on her features. You're not? I am purchased for... You're not purchased for anything, Marcus said firmly. Consider yourself a passenger with an unusual boarding fee. Get some rest, we'll be departing within the hour. As he left her quarters, Marcus activated his earpiece and prepared for what would likely be a very difficult conversation with Admiral Chen. The Zephyrian delegation was expecting their cultural exchange, and instead he was fleeing Station Game 7, with a mysterious Zalarian whose very existence raised more questions than answers. The bridge's communication array hummed to life as Marcus established a secure connection with Fleet Headquarters. Admiral Chen's weathered face appeared on the main screen, her expression already showing signs of impatience. Reid, where the hell are you? The Zephyrians are threatening to walk if their representative doesn't arrive soon. Admiral, we have a problem. The Zephyrian representative never showed at the auction house. Instead, I encountered something else entirely, a situation that may be related to our broader security concerns in this sector. Chen's eyes narrowed. Explain. Marcus chose his words carefully. I've recovered a Zalarian female from the slave markets. Evidence suggests she may have been subjected to memory modification by unknown parties. Given the Zalarian Empire's recent diplomatic silence and the strategic importance of this sector, I believe she may be connected to larger political developments. You bought a slave instead of completing your mission. Prevented a potential intelligence asset from falling into hostile hands, Marcus corrected. Admiral, if I'm right about who she is, this could be bigger than the Zephyrian trade negotiations. The silence stretched for several seconds before Chen spoke again. You have 48 hours to reach the Arcturus station, for your intelligence. Asset doesn't provide actionable information by then. You're both coming home for a very long debriefing. The connection terminated, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and the weight of what he'd potentially set in motion. Through the ship's internal sensors, he could see 27. He really needed to find out her real name, sitting motionless in her quarters, staring out the viewport at the stars. As the Meridian undocked from Station Gamma 7 and began its journey toward open space, Marcus wondered if he'd just made a career-ending mistake or stumbled onto something that could change the balance of power in the entire sector. The answer, he suspected, lay locked away in the damaged mind of the woman he'd just rescued. The ship's medical bay hummed with activity as Marcus ran every scan he could think of without being invasive. 27 had agreed to the examination with surprising willingness, though she flinched whenever the scanners passed near her neural implant sites. The scarring is approximately 3 months old, Marcus noted, studying the readouts. Professional work, but whoever did this was in a hurry. They missed several secondary neural pathways. What does that mean? She asked, her voice steadier than it had been at the auction house. It means your memories might not be as gone as someone wanted them to be. The human brain and, I'm assuming Zalarian neural structure is similar, has redundant pathways.
Ow.
Damage one route and information can sometimes find another way through. She was quiet for a moment, then, I've been having dreams. Fragments of ... places, faces, but they don't make sense. Marcus felt a surge of excitement. Can you describe them? Crystal spires reaching toward twin suns. Beings in formal robes, speaking in voices that sound like singing and ... She paused, her hand unconsciously moving to her throat. Someone calling me by a name that isn't 27. What name? Lirile, but that can't be right. That's... She stopped abruptly, her eyes widening as if she'd surprised herself. Marcus froze. He'd heard that name before, in intelligence briefings about the Zalarian Empire's political structure. Princess Lirile Veltar, heir to the Zalarian throne, and one of the most powerful individuals in the galaxy. She'd disappeared 3 months ago during a diplomatic mission to the outer colonies. Presumed dead when her escort ships were found destroyed. 27, he said carefully. I need you to look at something. He activated the ship's holographic display and pulled up a news archive from 3 months earlier. The image showed a regal Zalarian woman addressing the Galactic Council. Her silver hair arranged in elaborate braids, her violet eyes bright with intelligence and authority. 20-7 stared at the hologram for several heartbeats, then began to shake. That's me. But how can that be me? I'm nobody. I'm damaged goods from a slave auction. No, Marcus said firmly, shutting down the display. You're Princess Lirelei Veltar, heir to the Zephyrian Empire, and one of the most important people in the galaxy. And someone tried very hard to make you forget that. Revelation hung between them like a charged plasma field. Marcus watched. As emotions flickered across her face, confusion, fear, and gradually a growing spark of something that might have been memory or might have been hope. If that's true, she said slowly, then whoever did this to me committed an act of war against the Zephyrian Empire. The political ramifications, would be enormous, Marcus finished. Which explains why you ended up in a slave auction instead. Of a shallow grave? Someone needed you alive but powerless, forgotten but not dead? She stood abruptly, beginning to pace the small medical bay with renewed energy. The neural implants, the memory modification, it wasn't random. They left me with enough cognitive function to survive, but took away everything that made me who I am, the perfect crime. Except they didn't count on a stubborn human diplomat stumbling across you, Marcus observed. The question now is what we do about it. Before she could answer, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. Marcus rushed to the bridge with Lirelei. Close behind, his tactical displays showing 3 ships dropping out of hyperspace directly in their path. The vessels were sleek, predatory-looking craft that he didn't immediately recognize. Unknown ship, this is Captain Vex of the Meridian Syndicate, came a transmission. Prepare to be boarded. We have a retrieval contract for your passenger. Marcus's blood ran cold. Somehow, someone had tracked them from Station Game 7. Either they'd been under surveillance the entire time, or the auction had been a trap designed to flush out anyone interested in the mysterious Zephyrian woman. They found us, Lirelei whispered, her face pale. Whoever did this to me, they're not done. Marcus was already powering up the ship's defensive systems and plotting an escape course. Then we'll just have to make sure they don't get a second chance. The Meridians shuddered as the first energy bolts struck their shields, and Marcus pushed the engines to maximum burn. Behind them, 3 ships gave chase. Their superior numbers, offset by his vessel's diplomatic-grade equipment and his own determination. To protect the woman who might hold the key to preventing a galactic war, as they fled deeper into uncharted space, Marcus realized that rescuing 27 had been the easy part. Keeping Princess Lirelei alive long enough to reclaim her throne and expose whoever had tried to erase her would require every skill he'd learned in 20 years of diplomatic service and, probably a few he'd have to make up as he went along. The chase was just beginning, and the stakes had just become higher than he'd ever imagined. In the passenger seat beside him, the heir to one of the galaxy's most powerful empires gripped her armrests with white knuckles. Fragments of memory and identity beginning to reassemble themselves as the familiar rhythms of crisis awakened something deep within her damaged mind. I remember, she said suddenly, her voice carrying new strength. Remember why I was on that diplomatic mission. Someone in the Zephyrian government is working with external forces to destabilize the Empire. They needed me gone, but killing the heir outright would have caused investigations. Well, they made you disappear and tried to erase the inconvenient parts, Marcus concluded, still focused on evading their pursuers. Classic political assassination with a technological twist. But if I'm remembering correctly, that means the conspiracy goes deeper than just the Zephyrian Empire. The forces I was investigating had connections throughout the Galactic Council, including... She trailed off as another memory surfaced, her eyes widening with implications that Marcus could only begin to guess at. Including what, Your Highness? For? The first time since he'd found her? Princess Lirelei, Veltar smiled, a expression that promised those who had wronged her would learn exactly why the Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy's technological development for the past millennium, including several key figures in the human colonial administration. Marcus, I think the people chasing us aren't just trying to silence me. They're trying to prevent an alliance between our species that could reshape the entire balance of galactic power. As the Meridian's engines strained against the pursuit and space around them filled with weapons fire, Marcus realized that what had started as a routine diplomatic mission had evolved into something far more dangerous and significant. He'd set out to negotiate trade agreements, and instead found himself protecting the key to a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of multiple governments. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. The Meridian bucked violently as another plasma barrage hammered their shields. Marcus gritted his teeth, pushing the ship's engines beyond their safety limits as he wove through the asteroid field of the Kepler 442 system. Behind him, Princess Lirelei worked at the sensor station with growing confidence, her royal training apparently overriding whatever mental blocks her captors had installed. "Two ships breaking off to flank us," she reported, her melodic voice now carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "The third is trying to force us deeper into the field where they can corner us." "Any suggestions, Your Highness?" Marcus asked, barely avoiding a chunk of rock the size of a city block. "Stop calling me that," she said sharply, then paused as if surprised by her own vehemence. "I mean, the title feels wrong somehow, like wearing clothes that don't fit." "Gosh!" Her fingers danced across the sensor controls with increasing skill. "Yes, I have a suggestion. These asteroids contain high concentrations of ferium, or if we can get close enough to the largest cluster, the metal will interfere with their targeting systems," Marcus finished, already adjusting course. "Brilliant, though that assumes you're remembering correctly about the mineral composition." "I am." The certainty in her voice surprised them both. Neural pathways associated with technical knowledge seemed to be intact. Personal memories that were primarily targeted. As they dove toward the asteroid cluster, Marcus found himself stealing glances at his passenger. The transformation was remarkable where 27 had been broken and defeated. Princess Lirelei was emerging with each passing hour. Her posture had straightened, her movements become more purposeful, and her eyes now held the sharp intelligence that intelligence reports had described. There she pointed to a massive asteroid honeycombed with mining tunnels. "If we can reach the excavation sites, the ferium deposits will create a sensor shadow large enough to hide us." The Meridians screamed through the asteroid's artificial canyons, their pursuers momentarily losing track as the mineral interference played havoc with long-range sensors. Marcus found a concealed dock inside one of the abandoned mining stations and powered down all non-essential systems. In the sudden quiet, they could hear each other breathing. "That was either brilliant flying or suicidal stupidity," Lirelei observed. "With humans, those tend to be the same thing," Marcus replied, running diagnostics on their damaged systems. 8. We've got maybe an hour before they expand their search. Pattern to include this station." She was quiet for a moment, then, "Marcus, I need to tell you something about what I've been remembering. The conspiracy I was investigating, it wasn't just political corruption. Someone has been systematically targeting hybrid technology projects between different species. Hybrid technology? Collaborative research programs where two or more species combine their unique capabilities to create something neither could achieve alone. The Zephyrian human trade negotiations you were sent to conduct. They were cover for a secret joint development project." Marcus felt pieces clicking into place. That's why the Zephyrian representative never showed at the auction house. "Someone intercepted her, or killed her," Lirelei said grimly. "The forces behind this have been eliminating anyone who might facilitate closer cooperation between species. They want the galaxy fractured, suspicious, easier to control. Control for what purpose?" Before she could answer, the ship's passive sensors detected movement outside. Their pursuers had found the mining station and were conducting systematic searches of each docking bay. "Time to go," Marcus muttered. But as he reached for the engine controls, Lirelei stopped him. "Wait, I have an idea, but it requires trusting me with something important." "What kind of something?" "Your ship's computer core. If I can interface directly with it using my neural implants, I might be able to mask our energy signature well. Enough to slip past them." Marcus hesitated. Allowing an alien to interface with a diplomatic vessel's systems violated about 17 different security protocols. On the other hand, those same protocols had led to the current situation where a galactic conspiracy was apparently using official channels to eliminate threats. "The implants they damaged, are they safe to use?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But the alternative is trying to outrun ships that are faster and better armed than we are." Through the viewport, Marcus could see searchlights sweeping the stations. Corridors. They were running out of time. "Do it." Lirelei moved to the ship's computer interface and placed her hands on the neural interface ports. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her eyes rolled back, showing only white, and the ship's systems began responding to commands that weren't coming from any human interface. The transformation was eerily beautiful. The Meridian's standard human interface displays flickered, and were replaced by flowing Zephyrian script that pulsed with soft light. More remarkably, the ship's energy signature began to shift, mimicking the electromagnetic patterns of the asteroid field around them. Incredible, Marcus breathed, watching their pursuers' ships pass within 50 meters without detecting them. How are you doing that? When Lirelei spoke, her voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate through the ship's hull itself. Larian. Technology doesn't just interface with machines, we form symbiotic relationships with them. Your ship is... singing to me? The search vessels moved on, apparently convinced the asteroid field was empty. Only when they were well out of sensor range did Lirelei disconnect from the interface, immediately collapsing forward as the effort caught up with her. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor, noting how her skin felt fevered and her breathing was shallow. Are you all right? The damaged pathways, she gasped, using the implant's created feedback loops. I'll be fine, but I can't do that again without risking permanent damage. Then we need to find another way to stay ahead of them. Marcus helped her to a chair and activated the ship's medical scanners. And we need to get you proper medical attention before those implants cause any more problems. There's a Zephyrian medical facility on Proxima 7, she said, once her breathing steadied. If I can reach it, they can repair the neural damage and help me recover the rest of my memories. That's in the heart of Zephyrian space. How do we get there without being intercepted? A slight smile played across her lips. By using the one thing our enemies won't expect: complete honesty. Over the next hour, as they traveled toward the system's communication relay, Lirelei explained her plan.
Ow.
Rather than skulking through back channels, they would broadcast an open message to the Zephyrian High Council, revealing her survival and the conspiracy that had tried to eliminate her. The conspirators' strength comes from operating in shadow, she reasoned. Once everything is public, they lose their ability to simply make problems disappear. If they decide to make us disappear first, then we'll have to prove that humans and Zephyrians really can achieve the impossible when we work together. The communication relay station was little more than an automated platform, but it had the range to reach Zephyrian space. As they approached, Marcus noticed something that made his tactical instincts scream warnings. There's another ship here. Same configuration as our pursuers. They're monitoring communications, Lirelei realized. Waiting to intercept any messages we send, so we give them something to intercept. Marcus began preparing a false transmission while Lirelei worked on a completely different message using her neural implants and the ship's hybrid interface capabilities. To any external observer, it would appear that Marcus was sending a standard diplomatic report, while she remained silent. The ruse worked perfectly. The enemy ship intercepted Marcus's decoy transmission about routine trade negotiations and began pursuing it toward a different sector, apparently believing they had prevented any real communication. Meanwhile, Lirelei's true message, encoded in quantum frequencies that only Zephyrian technology could detect, was already racing toward the heart of the Empire. Message sent, she confirmed, disconnecting from the interface with significantly less strain than before. Now we wait to see who responds first, the legitimate government or the conspirators. They didn't have to wait long. Within hours, the ship's communication array lit up with incoming transmissions from multiple sources. The first was from Admiral Chen, demanding immediate explanations for Marcus's deviation from mission parameters. The second was a coded message in Zephyrian script that made Lirelei's eyes widen as she read it. "What does it say?" Marcus asked. "It's from my cousin, Prince Theron. He's mobilizing the Imperial Guard and requesting immediate coordinates for extraction." She paused, studying the message more carefully. "But he's also warning that elements within our own government may be compromised. He suggests a neutral meeting point." And the third message. Lirelei's expression darkened as she decoded the final transmission. "This one claims to be from the Galactic Council itself, ordering me to surrender to the nearest Imperial facility for medical evaluation and debriefing. It's signed with proper authorization codes, but it uses formal address." Protocols that were changed 6 months ago. Whoever sent this is working from outdated information. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. How outdated? The kind of outdated that suggests the real government officials who would know current protocols are either dead or compromised. She met his eyes with grim determination. Marcus, I think we're looking at more than just a conspiracy. Someone has orchestrated a coup within the Zephyrian Empire. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. If the Zephyrian government had been compromised from within, then Lirelei wasn't just an inconvenient witness to corruption. She was potentially the only legitimate heir to an empire that controlled a significant portion of galactic civilization. Your cousin's message, he said carefully. Do you trust him? Theron and I grew up together. He's ambitious but loyal to the empire. If anyone would resist a coup, it would be him. She was quiet. For a moment, lost in recovered memories. But reaching him means crossing territory controlled by unknown forces who have the resources to modify memories and eliminate inconvenient people. Then we don't go to him, Marcus decided. We make him come to us. On our terms, in a place where we control the variables. Where did you have in mind? Marcus pulled up a star chart and pointed to a system on the border between human and Zephyrian space. Kepler Station. It's technically neutral territory, but it's staffed primarily by humans. If your cousin is legitimate, he'll come alone, or, with minimal escort, if he's part of the conspiracy, he'll bring enough firepower to level the station, Lirelei finished. It's risky. Everything about this situation is risky, but it's a risk that gives us the best chance of determining who we can trust. As they set course for Kepler Station, Lirelei continued to work with the ship's systems, each interface session revealing more of her true capabilities. Marcus watched in fascination as she optimized their engines, improved their defensive systems, and even enhanced the life support to better accommodate Zephyrian physiology. You're not just interfacing with the technology, he observed. You're improving it. Zephyrian neural implants don't just allow us to use technology, she explained. Her hands dancing over controls that now responded to thought as much as touch. They allow us to evolve it. Every interaction teaches both user and machine, creating hybrid systems that exceed the capabilities of either component alone. Is that what the conspiracy is afraid of? Hybrid advancement? Partly. There's something else. Something I'm still trying to remember. She paused in her work, her expression troubled. The research project I was investigating before my capture it wasn't just about technology sharing. It was about biological compatibility between species. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. What kind of biological compatibility? The kind that would allow different species to not just cooperate, but to truly merge their capabilities. Shared consciousness, enhanced physical abilities, symbiotic relationships that would create entirely new forms of life. And someone wants to prevent that. Someone wants to ensure that the galaxy remains divided, with each species isolated and competing rather than collaborating. Her violet eyes met his with growing intensity. Marcus, what if the auction house wasn't random? What if they specifically wanted you to find me? The thought had been nagging at him since their escape, but hearing it, voiced aloud, made it suddenly, terrifyingly real. You think this is all orchestrated? Think someone is playing a game with stakes higher than we can imagine? The question is whether we're pawns, or whether we're being given a chance to change the rules entirely. Before Marcus could respond, the ship's proximity alarms activated. A massive vessel was dropping out of hyperspace directly ahead of them, sleek, elegant, and undeniably Zephyrian in design. The Imperial Guard insignia was clearly visible on its hull, but so were weapon systems that could reduce the meridian to atoms in seconds. It's Theron's ship, Lirelei confirmed, her voice tight with tension. But he's not alone. The communication array activated, revealing a face that Marcus recognized from intelligence files. Prince Theron of the Zephyrian Empire. Younger than Lirelei, but sharing her violet eyes and aristocratic features. However, the expression on his face was one of barely controlled urgency. Cousin, he said, without preamble, you need to come aboard immediately. The situation at home is worse than you know. The Council has declared you dead, and named a regent to rule in your place. We have perhaps hours before they consolidate. Power completely. Who is the regent? Leah asked, her royal composure firmly in place despite the circumstances. He claims to have evidence that you were killed by human agents during a diplomatic mission gone wrong. He's using your death to justify severing all cooperation agreements with other species. Marcus felt the pieces of the conspiracy clicking into a pattern that was both elegant and terrifying. Eliminate the heir, blame another species, use the resulting chaos to seize power, and implement an isolationist agenda. Simple, effective, and devastating for galactic stability, Theron Lireley said carefully. I need you to understand something. My memories were artificially modified, but they're returning. The humans didn't capture me. They saved me. And the conspiracy reaches deeper than just our empire. Prince Theron's expression shifted from urgency to confusion to growing alarm as the implications registered. You're saying the coup has external support? I'm saying someone has been systematically working to prevent cooperation between species across the entire galaxy. Our empire is just one target among many. Then we need to move quickly. Every moment Valek remains in power, strengthens his position, and weakens any chance of exposing the truth. Marcus stepped into the communication range. Your Highness. With respect, Princess Lireley is still recovering from significant neural trauma. Rushing into a confrontation with a prepared enemy could be fatal for both of you. And who are you to offer strategic advice to the Zalarian imperial family? Theron's tone carried the cold authority of absolute power. He's the human who risked his career and his life to save me, Lireley interjected before Marcus could respond. More than that, he's proven that cooperation between our species can achieve things neither could accomplish alone. If we're going to stop this conspiracy, we need his insights. The prince studied Marcus with new interest. Very well, but time is not our ally. Valek has already begun purging government officials who might question his authority. If we don't act within the next 24 hours, there may be no legitimate government left to restore. Then we don't restore it, Lireley said with growing determination. Create something better, something that proves the conspirators wrong about the value of species cooperation. What are you proposing? A demonstration that hybrid capabilities, technological, biological, strategic represent the future the conspirators are trying to prevent. We show the galaxy what's possible when species truly work together. Marcus felt a surge of admiration for her audacity, coupled with the terrifying realization that they were about to attempt something that could either save galactic civilization or trigger the very war the conspiracy wanted. Your Highness, he said formally, if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. Full transparency, shared risks, and a plan that doesn't depend on anyone being superhuman. Fortunately, Lireley replied with a smile that promised their enemies were about to learn why the Zalarian Empire had survived for millennia. I'm beginning to remember exactly what superhuman feels like. As the two ships moved toward Kepler Station in an uncertain future, Marcus realized that what had started as a diplomatic mission had evolved into something far more significant, a test of whether the galaxy's future would be shaped by fear and isolation, or by the infinite possibilities that emerged when different species chose cooperation over conflict. Kepler Station hung in the void, like a mechanical flower, its rotating sections glinting with the light of distant stars. As the meridian approached the docking bay, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into the most important moment in galactic history or the most elaborate trap ever conceived. Multiple ships on approach vector, Prince Theron's voice crackled through the communication array. I count at least 12 vessels, mixed configurations. Some I recognize as a legitimate Imperial Guard. Others belong to whoever's been pulling the strings, Lireley finished, her hands already interfacing with the station's security systems. Through her neural link, data cascaded across the ship's displays in flowing Zellerian script. Marcus, the station's been evacuated, except for essential personnel. Someone cleared the civilians out 6 hours ago. Before we even announced our meeting location, Marcus realized his tactical instincts screaming warnings. This was anticipated. Then we adapt, Lireley said, with the calm certainty of someone born to rule. Theron, what's the status of the loyal forces? Fewer than I hoped, more than I feared? Captain Xerix of the Dreadnought Starfire has remained loyal, along with most of the Third Fleet. But Velek has control of the capital and is claiming that any military action against him constitutes treason against the Empire. Convenient definition of treason, Marcus muttered, already plotting defensive positions within the station. Your Highness, if this goes badly, it won't, she interrupted, but her certainty wavered as new contacts appeared on their sensors, at least not in the way they expect. The docking process was tense, its automated systems guiding them to berths that placed them strategically between Theron's escort ships and the approaching unknowns. As they sealed the airlock, Marcus noticed that Lireley's movements had taken on a fluid precision that spoke of recovered muscle memory and growing confidence. The neural pathways are stabilizing, she explained, apparently reading his expression. Each time I interface with technology, more connections reestablish themselves. It's like waking up from a very long, very complicated dream.
Stations.
Corridors echoed with the hollow sound of emptiness as they made their way to the central conference chamber. The facility had been designed as neutral ground for interspecies negotiations, its architecture reflecting the mathematical harmonies that all advanced civilizations seemed to appreciate. Now, it felt like a tomb waiting for its occupants. Prince Theron met them at the entrance to the main conference hall. His ceremonial armor polished to mirror brightness, but clearly functional. Up close, the family resemblance to Lireley was unmistakable, though his violet eyes held a harder edge that spoke of recent harsh lessons. "Cousin," he said formally, then dropped protocol to embrace her with obvious relief. "I wasn't certain I'd ever see you alive again." "There were times I wasn't certain either," she admitted. "Theron, I need you to understand the memory modification was precise, surgical. Whoever did this had intimate knowledge of Zephyrian neural architecture, meaning it was one of our own, or someone with access to our most classified research." She gestured toward Marcus. "This is Marcus Reid, the human who saved me. His insights have been valuable." Theron studied Marcus with the calculating gaze of someone accustomed to measuring threats and allies. "The intelligence reports suggested you were investigating illegal slave trading." "I was investigating trade negotiations that someone didn't want to succeed," Marcus corrected. "Your cousin's presence at that auction wasn't coincidence. It was the end result of a plan to eliminate anyone who might facilitate closer cooperation between our species." Before Theron could respond, the station's communication systems activated with an incoming transmission that carried the full authority of the Zephyrian Empire. The holographic display resolved into the image of Minister Valak, an older Zephyrian with silver hair and eyes that held the cold intelligence of a master manipulator. Prince Theron, Valak said with mock formality, "You are in violation of direct imperial orders. Surrender yourself and the human criminal immediately, and your punishment will be limited to exile." Minister Valak Lireley stepped into the transmission range, her posture carrying all the regal authority of her bloodline. "I am Princess Lireley Veltar, rightful heir to the Zephyrian throne. You are addressing your empress." The silence that followed was deafening. Valak's carefully composed expression cracked for just a moment, revealing something like fear before being replaced by calculated cunning. "Impossible. Princess Lireley died 3 months ago in a terrorist attack orchestrated by human extremists. What I see before me is either an imposter or some kind of technological deception." "Then let's settle this with more than words," Lireley replied, her hand moving to the neural interface panel beside the communication array. "I challenge your legitimacy under the ancient codes. Trial by demonstration of imperial capability." Felt his pulse quicken. He'd read about Zephyrian trial codes in diplomatic briefings, archaic rituals that still carried legal weight in their society. A trial by demonstration required the challenger to prove their worthiness through feats that only a true heir could accomplish. "You cannot challenge what you cannot prove," Valak sneered. "Even if you are somehow the princess, your neural damage makes you unfit to rule." I have medical reports documenting extensive brain trauma that would preclude his words were cut off as every system on Kepler station suddenly shifted into a higher operational mode. Lights brightened, air circulation improved, and the artificial gravity adjusted to perfect comfort levels for all present species. Through the neural link she'd established, Lirelei was interfacing with the entire station simultaneously. "Reports," she said calmly, while data streams flowed around her like liquid light that were falsified to support your narrative. "Shall I broadcast the actual scan results? The ones that show precise surgical modification designed to suppress specific memory centers while leaving cognitive function intact." Through the Shipto station interface, Marcus watched as Lirelei accessed not just Kepler station systems, but began reaching out to other networks throughout the sector. Recovered abilities were staggering. She was simultaneously monitoring dozens of communication channels, analyzing fleet movements, and apparently conducting several parallel conversations through quantum entanglement networks. "Impressive," Valek admitted, "but technology can be faked. True imperial authority requires more than mere technical prowess." "Then allow me to demonstrate true authority," Lirelei replied, and her presence suddenly expanded beyond the physical confines of the station. What happened next would be recorded in xenoarchaeological texts for centuries. Through her neural implants, Lirelei accessed the Zephyrian collective consciousness, the quantum-linked network that connected every member of their species across the galaxy. But instead of simply joining the network, she began to reshape it, creating new pathways that welcomed non-Zephyrian consciousness. Marcus felt it first as a tingling at the edge of his awareness, then as something far more profound. Through Lirelei's enhanced capabilities, he found himself connected to the thoughts and emotions of millions of Zephyrian citizens, feeling their hopes, fears, and growing recognition that their true princess had returned. "Possible, Valek?" whispered, his composure finally cracking. "The collective consciousness cannot interface with alien minds. The neural architecture is incompatible." "Compatible," Lirelei corrected, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated through both biological and quantum channels. "When mediated by someone who understands that separation is an illusion." Marcus showed them what human determination can accomplish when given the proper tools. Marcus found himself accessing the collective consciousness with growing confidence, his thoughts merging with Zephyrian minds across the galaxy. Through this expanded awareness, he sensed the scope of the conspiracy networks of corrupt officials, military commanders, and business leaders who had been systematically working to prevent interspecies cooperation. But he also sensed something else: millions of ordinary Zephyrians who were tired of isolation, hungry for the knowledge and perspectives that other species could offer, increasingly angry at the deception that had been practiced upon them. "The people know the truth now," Marcus announced, his voice carrying the weight of a million aligned minds. "They know their princess lives. They know about the conspiracy. No. And they know what's possible when species choose cooperation over conflict." The collective consciousness. They felt Valek's support structure beginning to crumble as his carefully constructed lies were exposed to the light of shared truth. Military commanders who had supported him out of patriotic duty now realized they had been manipulated into serving foreign interests. Government officials who had believed in his vision of Zephyrian purity found themselves confronting the reality that isolation meant stagnation. "This changes nothing," Valek declared, though his voice now carried the desperate edge of someone whose plans were unraveling. "Even if the people accept you, the military forces loyal to stability will not allow this dangerous experiment to continue." "What military forces?" Prince Theron asked, with a smile that promised unpleasant surprises. For the minister, through the collective consciousness, he had been coordinating with fleet commanders across the Empire, most of whom were now openly declaring their loyalty to the legitimate heir. "The forces that answer to higher authorities than the Zephyrian Empire," Valek replied, dropping his mask of patriotic concern entirely. "Did you think this was merely a domestic coup? The consortium has been planning this for decades, preparing for the day when the galaxy species would finally be forced to accept their proper places in the natural order." "The consortium?" Liralay's mental touch carried ice-cold fury as she accessed deeper intelligence networks, the same consortium that's been manipulating conflicts throughout the galaxy, ensuring that no two species ever achieve true cooperation. Cooperation is chaos, Valek declared with fanatic certainty. Each species has its role, its place in the cosmic hierarchy. Humans are useful as laborers and soldiers. Zalarians are meant to develop technology for the benefit of superior beings. The aquatic species control shipping because they lack the intelligence for higher functions. When everyone accepts their place, there is peace. And who determines these places? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Those with the wisdom to see the larger pattern. The hierarchy has guided galactic development for millennia, ensuring stability through proper order. Your little demonstration of hybrid capability threatens to upset arrangements that have prevented galactic war for 1,000 years. Through the collective consciousness, Marcus and Liralay began to piece together the full scope of what they faced. The consortium wasn't just a political organization. It was the visible face of something far older and more dangerous. The hierarchy that Valek mentioned appeared to be a secret organization that had been manipulating galactic civilization since before humans had achieved spaceflight. But there's something they didn't account for, Liralay said with growing excitement as she accessed previously hidden archives through her expanded neural capabilities. The hybrid consciousness we've created isn't limited to just humans and Zalarians. It can be extended to any species willing to join voluntarily. A galactic collective consciousness, Marcus breathed, understanding the implications. Not controlled by any single species, but shared among all who choose to participate. Ultimate expression of cooperation over conflict, Theron added, his tactical mind already seeing the strategic possibilities. No more manipulation through deception, no more artificial scarcity or manufactured conflicts. No more hierarchy, Liralay finished with grim satisfaction. Valek's image flickered as the station's systems were accessed by external forces. When the transmission stabilized, he was no longer alone. Behind him stood figures that Marcus recognized from intelligence briefings, representatives of species he'd never seen before. Beings whose very presence seemed to bend space around them. "You understand nothing?" one of the figures spoke. It's a voice carrying harmonics that seemed to bypass the ears entirely and speak directly to the brain. Order requires hierarchy. Chaos follows from equality. We have prevented countless wars by ensuring that each species remains in its proper sphere, and maintained your own power by ensuring no one else could challenge it. Liralay replied, her enhanced consciousness now reaching toward other star systems, other species, other minds hungry for connection and truth. What followed could only be described as a battle fought on levels that most organic life could barely comprehend. Through the expanding network of linked consciousness, Marcus found himself part of a cosmic struggle between those who sought to control galactic civilization and those who believed in its right to evolve freely. The hierarchy brought to bear technology and knowledge accumulated over millennia, weapon systems that could sterilize worlds, and mental techniques that could rewrite the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. But they faced something they had never encountered before. The combined will of billions of beings who had chosen cooperation over domination. Through the collective consciousness, human determination merged with Zalarian technical brilliance, Zephyrian aquatic adaptability, and the unique capabilities of dozens of other species. The network grew exponentially as word spread, each new connection strengthening the whole and adding new perspectives to the struggle. "It's working," Marcus reported, his awareness now spanning star systems. The hierarchy's control networks are being overridden by voluntary cooperation. Their artificial barriers between species are collapsing. More than that, Liralay added, her joy rippling through their shared consciousness. We're not just defeating their system, we're replacing it with something better. A true galactic community based on choice rather than coercion. The battle's conclusion was almost anticlimactic. Faced with the choice between escalating to total galactic war or accepting the new reality, the hierarchy simply withdrew. Their agents disappeared, their control networks went silent, and Their artificial barriers between species dissolved like morning mist. In the aftermath, as the immediate crisis passed and the new galactic consciousness stabilized into sustainable patterns, Marcus found himself alone with Leorile in the station's observation deck. Through the viewport, they could see ships from dozens of species approaching not as conquerors or competitors, but as partners in something unprecedented. "So," he said, settling beside her as they watched the future take shape, "what does an empress do when her empire suddenly becomes part of something larger?" "She adapts," Leorile replied, her hand finding his with a naturalness that surprised them both. "And she makes sure that the being who saved her gets proper recognition in the history books." "I didn't save you," Marcus protested. "You saved yourself. I just happened to be stubborn enough to stick around while you did it." "Exactly," she said with a smile that promised their partnership was far from over. "The most human thing possible, refusing to abandon someone who needed help, regardless of the personal cost." Through their neural link, they felt the collective consciousness settling into new patterns, billions of minds learning to coexist and cooperate in ways that strengthened rather than diminished their individual identities. "The galaxy would never be the same, Your Majesty." Prince Theron's voice interrupted their contemplation. "The Galactic Council has voted to recognize the new cooperative Commonwealth. They're requesting your presence at the formal ratification ceremony." "Our presence," Leorile corrected, her fingers intertwining with Marcus's. "Ambassador Reid will be representing humanity in the new government structure." "Ambassador?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The title comes with the position," she explained with mock seriousness. "Though I believe the traditional human term would be coroller." As they prepared to leave Kepler Station and return to a galaxy transformed by their choices, Marcus reflected on the strange chain of events that had brought them to this moment. What had started as a routine diplomatic mission to purchase a mysterious slave had evolved into the foundation of a new form of galactic civilization. "Any regrets?" Leorile asked, apparently reading his thoughts through their shared consciousness. Marcus considered the question seriously, weighing everything they had gained against everything they had risked. Then he smiled, pulling her closer as ships from across the galaxy gathered to celebrate the dawn of a new age. "Only that it took us so long to figure out what we could accomplish together." Through the viewport, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the galaxy itself was celebrating the end of artificial divisions and the beginning of unlimited possibilities. In years to come, historians would mark this day as the moment when galactic civilization truly began, not with conquest or domination, but with a simple human refusal to abandon someone who needed help, and an alien princess's courage to trust in the power of cooperation over control. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for them to discover what had always been possible when beings chose connection over isolation, understanding over fear, and hope over despair. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.